a little delay. I saw something and it didn't look quite like the instrument paneling that I should have, and I ended the stream and then I started again. So we're stopping and starting, and here we are, show 877. Hi, everyone. It's Emil. It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to my Takeout, Emil Amok's Takeout. We are just lining up, pointing to the issues and providing our takes, providing a take on all things considerable, because this is where Asian American or an Asian American talks about the things that you care about. And on Friday, we're going to bring up special guest Daniel Phil Gonzalez, San Francisco State. We'll bring him up, talk about the news. Elon Musk, his drug use, all that. We'll talk about that. Harvard, the commencement, international students. We'll talk about all that. But first, I want to mention that, hey, I'm going to do my show. It is a work in progress. Hey, I'm going to talk about Trump and popes and maybe ditties. I thought I was going to talk about ditties, but I'm not going to talk. I don't know if I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about Trump and popes and Harvard and about how things are getting personal in this 69 world that we're in. That's my show, June 2nd at the Marsh in San Francisco, 1062 Valencia Street. Go, just come by. I mean, tickets are at the door. You can buy tickets at themarsh.org. If you're watching me, the ticket link is there. Tickets are fairly reasonable. It's a sliding scale. And if you have no money and all you have is a scale, you can offer a scale. Say, here, I don't have any money, but here's a scale. I use it to sell, 10-ounce bags in, the 70s, but haven't used it in 30 years, 40 years, but it's a scale. But or whatever. I mean, no one will be sent away. Let's put it that way. So Marsh in San Francisco, the one in San Francisco, 1062 Valencia Street. Monday Night Marsh, they call it. I'll be there. Another artist will be there. It should be fun. I'm performing for about 20 minutes or so, 25. And for the last couple of weeks, I've done 10 minutes. And so I'm putting it all together. And then really, I call it a work in progress because I'm going to Canada later in the summer and going to put together this show, a full 60-minute show. So it should be fun. Come watch the process. Monday Night Marsh, 1062 Valencia Street, San Francisco, June 2nd. I'm performing. Working title, Trump's, popes, ditties, maybe no ditties. Maybe I'll talk about Harvard. But it'll be fun. It'll be entertaining. Tickets are reasonable. Go get them on Ovation, on the Marsh website, and they'll take you to Ovation Tix. But that's on Monday, June 2nd. All right, now, I also want to talk about a show that a friend of mine is doing, Ishmael Reed, the playwright, novelist. He does a show called Life Among the Aryans. He wrote it. Local actors are there at the Berkeley, or actually at the Black Repertory Group. It's right there at the Berkeley-Oakland line. And you can catch it on the screen now. I have an Eventbrite tickets link that you can get your tickets. Tickets are really reasonable. I mean, for a theatrical event, Life Among the Aryans is Ishmael's satire that predicted the January 6th insurrection. So you want to see some cutting edge satire from a good friend of mine, friend of the show, Ishmael Reed. Check it out at the Black Repertory Group, right there at Berkeley and Oakland, right there at the line. Life Among the Aryans. All right, so now our show. I want to talk about a number of things. Elon Musk, I want to talk about Taco Trump and Harvard and the SCOTUS ruling today. And I always bring up my friend on Fridays to help me sort these things out. He's Professor Emeritus, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Asian American Studies, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez. Hi, Dan.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good after Friday afternoon. It's finally warm here in San Francisco. Still
Yeah,
a little windy.
it's a hot out here in the valley where the real fruits and nuts are. It's in the it's in the 80s. It's not in the 80s in the city, is it?
Oh no, no, it's relatively cool here by comparison. I
Yeah.
doubt that it'll get to. Let me check my watch.
Yeah.
It's 71
Well,
right here.
that's pleasant. That's pleasant. All right,
It
look,
is.
Dan. So much news. Now let's start with Elon Musk. I was busy writing and I missed his handshake with Donald Trump. Trump was sitting down. Elon Musk always standing in
He
these.
hardly said anything. He was very subdued. Hardly said anything, and Trump occupied 95% of the space.
Yeah, well, as you'd expect, because Musk is really trying to, get away from the politics, which has really hampered his businesses. Except what gets me is it's hampered his businesses, but he's by doing his thing in the government, he's helped his own cause in terms of all the satellite stuff and all
Yeah,
the
it's
rockets.
contracts. He has
Yeah,
millions of contracts.
yeah,
He's
billions,
making billions, billions in
billions.
contracts.
And so I think as Trump is fond of saying, a little bit of pain for a lot of gain for Elon Musk. But the big story that might be lost, everyone's reporting on it. The New York Times headline: on the campaign trail, Elon Musk juggled drugs and family drama. As Mr. Musk entered President Trump's orbit, his private life grew increasingly tumultuous, and his drug use was more intense than previously known. So there, he's a druggie, and Donald Trump, who is because of his brother's alcoholism, Donald Trump is a notorious teetotaler. I wonder what this does to the relationship. But let me just read the first three graphs because of this story, because it tells you what you need to know. As Elon Musk became one of Donald J. Trump's closest allies last year, leading raucous rallies and donating about 275 million. See, that's his main, that's his calling card. I got money. I will. Elon Musk is the mother's milk of Trump and GOP campaigns, right? So, uh, Trump, while all that was going on, Musk was using drugs far more intensely than previously known, according to this is the sourcing, to people familiar with his activities. Now, if you're pro Musk, you say, "Oh yeah, who are those people? Jake Tapper. Who are those people who are familiar with the activities?"
Snitches get stitches.
Yeah. Or do you, or this is anonymous sourcing, but people need to know that this is how journalists get people who know to speak. You give them the cloak of anonymity, they speak, and what you find out better be worth it if you're going to use this privilege. So, second graph. Mr. Musk's drug consumption went well beyond occasional use, which means he was probably hitting it up all the time. He told people he was taking so much ketamine, a powerful anesthetic, that it was affecting his bladder, a known effect of chronic use, which probably explains why he was peeing on himself all the time. He, well, that's what sources might have said. I'm if he had a kidney problem. He told people he was taking so much ketamine, a powerful anesthetic, that it was affecting his bladder. He took ecstasy and psychedelic mushrooms. So that's how lucid he was. That's probably why when he went to Wisconsin and he put on the cheese head, he really thought he was a piece of cheese. He really thought he was the big cheese. And he traveled with a daily medication box that held about 20 pills, including ones with the markings of the stimulant Adderall, according to a photo of the box and people who have seen it. So you have people with their iPhones taking pictures of the box, whenever Musk was traveling. So what do you make of this for Mr. Musk 53?
Well, it partially explains his behavior,
Yeah,
like with the chainsaw, particularly. I
yeah,
thought that was crazy.
yeah,
It was downright dangerous what he was doing. I mean, if there was a chain in that saw, regardless of whether or not it was on or off, there wasn't a guard on the saw blade. And so it was very dangerous for him to be waving that damn thing around. I
Yeah,
have chainsaws. I
yeah,
use them on my properties.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And I'm very, very safe with them.
Yeah, yeah,
No, I have gas, but I also have electric.
yeah,
Much safer, but less powerful.
yeah. Well, I remember seeing that he was at CPAC and showing off, and
It
I.
was that was crazy. That was after, for me. That was evidence of a drug laden behavior.
All right, now there's more to this story. It says it's unclear whether Musk was taking drugs when he became a fixture at the White House. So the campaign, yes, not sure about the White House, but he has exhibited erratic behavior, insulting cabinet members, gesturing like a Nazi, and garbling his answers in staged interviews. At the same time, Mr. Musk's family life has grown increasingly tumultuous as he has negotiated overlapping romantic relationships and private legal battles involving his growing brood of children. Nothing, you can call it nothing else but a brood, right? That's what Elon Musk has. So, I mean, knowing this, should Trump have been involved with this guy?
He had $275 million worth of
A freeze?
motivation,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
with more to come potentially. That's one.
Mhm.
Uh, that you're asking a rhetorical question.
Yes.
Someone who was mindful and was thinking about something more than just his own ego and the way this appeared. Right, Mr. Trump is most concerned with appearance,
Yeah.
and to have the richest man in the world on your side and leading one of the most important activities within the Trump movement in his second term. That's a big thing. That was a very positive thing from the Trump point of view. My question goes beyond even Trump and this administration. My question is, does his board think that he's fit to remain at the top of the companies? I mean,
Well,
we're talking about five or six different companies. You
yeah.
know,
Well, and just Tesla alone, he's already damaged the brand, made the stock yo-yo. It's gone back up a little bit, but he says he's going to pay attention to the company. Uh, it's unclear. It's unclear if he has the stamina to keep going or to try to bring it back because he's got other interests. The guy's got an Adderall problem, so
it,
he might
San
discover
San
something
Fran,
else.
yeah, you know, San Francisco. I have an indicator. San
Mhm.
Francisco is one of the most Tesla occupied places
Yeah,
in the universe, in
yeah,
in in the world. Okay, uh, used car lots abound just south of San Francisco, beginning in Colma, right, world famous graveyards,
yeah,
and then working on your way south out throughout San Mateo County. There is a Tesla lot in Colma.
yeah,
It's full, and the cars are not moving. Not only that, in all of the associated smaller lots, these are other privately owned used car lots. The
yeah.
majority of the cars in one lot are Teslas. They're
Yeah,
not moving.
I
They're not
think
moving.
he's turned a brand into a lemon. Whether I've been in a Tesla just once, and it happened to be an Uber, and I was surprised by its zip, and I learned a little more about the car. It didn't make me want to buy one because by time I got into it, I realized what a guy you know Elon Musk was. But isn't it ironic that it's the woke that enriched Musk and Tesla, and Tesla with the woke money then went on and did all these dastardly things like not the world's richest man making the world's poorest children starve, cutting back USAID,
Yeah.
and things of that nature. When he made his Doge cuts throughout the American government. So I don't know if there's enough forgiveness to come back and say, "Oh, Elon, yeah, he was just playing
He should
politics."
not. I would not. If I were on his board and
Yeah,
as a shareholder, okay,
yeah.
if I was holding his stock, I would want him out. There's no way that that guy should be leading up any companies. Now
Well,
he may be an idea man, and you might want to keep him around for that purpose. But it's not only that he's tainted the businesses. Okay, it's also what is his capacity. I mean, you look at the way that he behaved while he was leading up Doge, right?
well, he should have been. After a government stint, it usually helps in the private sector, and you become either you go back and become a figurehead. Considering the branding damage he did, or the brand damage, I
Well,
don't know if he's capable of being a figurehead, even at
what
either.
people the reason that there are laws that have been passed within the last 20 years, okay, about people leaving government and then going into the private sector, it's about lobbying, or worse, it's about being paid, right, because of what you have learned about how the government really works,
Right.
not what the public face of the government is, but how it actually works, and also what your connections have been with all of the different elements of government that have to do that deal directly face to face with business people, okay, and with whole areas of industry. And so he's got that now. But what value is it when they've gutted most of the people who were in leadership roles in the major departments of government that matter? Okay, because it's those people that you want the connections with, the people who are competent, the people with decades of experience, right? Those are the people who have global reputations and have goodwill with other countries and trading partners. Those are the people you want to have the connections with. They this Trump administration wiped them out. They've
Yeah.
got a bunch of dorks in there that know very little about the realities of the relationship with the government and business, especially on a global scale. So
Yeah.
we have been hurt very badly.
Well,
American society, American capitalism has been hurt very badly. So if you believe in the capitalist way wholeheartedly,
yeah.
you should be getting out some razors and looking at your veins very seriously.
Well, this is the thing about putting, you know, the American public putting a businessman like Trump. Well, we want, he ran a business. We'll trust him. No experience in government, and then Trump, only because Elon Musk had money, put really essentially gave Elon Musk the keys to the government. To go into everywhere, take his chainsaw and go everywhere. And then finally, he said in midway, he said, "Well, maybe we ought to be surgical about this." And then they became surgical with the chainsaw. But this is a bad.
There's a guy that I don't know if he's doing business anymore, but he's the master of the chainsaw, and he used to do those redwood sculptures
Oh yeah, yeah,
in Sausalito. Remember that?
yeah, yeah. I do
Yeah.
remember.
I would believe it if you saw him. He's very delicate with a chainsaw, and he uses basically one or two saws. So he
Yeah,
doesn't go down to the little mini chainsaws. I have one of those,
yeah.
and you could get in really detailed with that. But I'll tell you, this guy is not one of those people. I wouldn't change. I wouldn't. I would. I would not trust this guy with any kind of implement with which you can cut.
Well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe Elon Musk can run a chainsaw company. Maybe he could do that. I mean, but I don't know. Rockets, another one of
Yeah,
his
but see,
rockets fell
but
apart.
his first step would to make it an automatic chainsaw.
Oh yeah,
An
right, right.
an
Oh
autonomous.
yeah, make it an AI chainsaw.
There you go.
CHAI.
Oh,
So,
ouch.
so all right. So Elon Musk, farewell,
Yeah,
Elon.
man.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
It makes me nervous when I'm sitting at a poker table,
Yeah.
and somebody's acting a little strange, and I'm wondering whether or not they're on drugs, and what are they armed?
Yeah.
It's,
I'll tell you, you mentioned poker tables. I think sometimes people sit, they want to cram the tables. I think people sit too close at the poker tables. It kind of freaks me out sometimes. You're
yeah. Well, that's
card
the
to
casino.
cards.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, unless you're a Filipino. So, but they're always crowded, and and then, but you know, the alpha in you has to come out. Otherwise,
Yeah, no,
it's
I'll give you a tip. They're not that crowded at 3 o'clock in the morning.
oh yeah, right. That's true. If you go at 3, then you go.
Yeah,
You go one on
there's only
one.
serious people there,
Yeah.
and people who pretend to be beginners.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I just happened to. I thought this was
This is
black.
my first time at the table.
I thought this was a game where you had a
Okay.
7 card 21, 7 card.
Hey, my radar goes up and the red light flashes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, well, a lot of my wins came from dumb luck, not at 3 o'clock, but maybe at 1 a.m. So, all right. So, Elon, farewell, Elon, and let's give him a swish out. Another story I want to talk about, Dan. The Supreme Court ruled,
Oh yeah.
and on this humanitarian parole for people who are leaving countries they fear political persecution. They come here. There were thousands, and Joe Biden gave them humanitarian um, you know uh, you know parole to stay in America. The Supreme Court says nope. The Trump administration can go ahead and end that, and he's already ended parole for I believe 9,000 Venezuelans. So the number is mounting. We're going to have more deportations. Why is the Supreme Court doing that? I mean, this is, I guess, the Trump Supreme Court. Even though, I mean, they said it's just temporary, but they're it's still the Supreme Court that's willing to give Trump what he wants. Unfortunately,
Well, yeah. It's the 6-3 massacre. That's
yeah,
basically it.
yeah,
I mean, the when I listen to the Supreme Court decisions, I don't even listen to the majority opinion anymore. I just go for the dissenting opinions
yeah,
because they do a better job of describing what the majority opinion is in their dissent. It's
yeah,
as simple as that. I, and that's kind of backwards, isn't it? I mean that is the reverse of what the general media is taught to do, right?
yeah. Well,
Um,
I mean, but basically, does it means that uh, they're giving him something. I mean, the Supreme Court is saying, yeah, you could do it for now, but it made it sound like it's going to be temporary. I mean, and we're talking about the actual numbers: 500,000 people facing humanitarian crises in their home
Those are
country.
big numbers, and there's a lot of Americans that want that. We can't ignore the fact that that's what MAGA is all about.
Yeah,
Hardcore MAGA is racist in the extreme, and
right.
so the targets are going to be people of color, right?
Mm.
And that includes obviously Venezuelans, South Americans, generally Central Americans. Look at all the Central Americans. How about Haitians, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
and even people from Sudan or Darfur or places like that in Africa, right?
yeah, yeah. So what's going to happen? What's going to make it? They're going to have to bring up another case, and then the Supreme Court will rule, and then say, okay, that's it. We're not going to. We're going to allow humanitarian parole again. I mean, because a lot of these people aren't here because of their health or because they want to enrich themselves. They're really here for they need the humanitarian concerns. And when you have the Supreme Court saying, "Hey, we're not going to honor humanitarian reasons," I mean that says something about our country. Our country is mean, cruel, nasty.
I'm not. I don't know what you're. Okay. First of all, I agree with your description of what's happening. Okay, that's most important. That is happening. Okay. Um, the the rationale for humanitarian aid, right, is strictly based really on Christian ethics.
Mhm.
Okay, it's
Yeah,
based on Christian ethics, and so I don't know. My feeling is that the Supreme Court is guilty of hard right Christian hypocrisy. This is how
Yeah.
can you do this? And then, one of the things that I would raise in class is, you ever heard of the eight beatitudes? Okay, so
Be out of, be out of what? Be out of what?
and just basic stuff, right? You're supposed to feed the hungry and clothe the poor, house the naked, all that kind of stuff. That's what I was raised on.
No,
And
yeah, we're selling golden tickets. If you got $5 million, you can come in. We'll give you all the
well,
pearl
yeah,
you
but
want.
if you're white South African, you don't even need that. You
That's
can come
right.
in and you get stipend. You get a stipend. You get a he if it's at all possible, he'll bypass naturalization law,
Yeah.
okay, and give them instant citizenship. I mean, that's what this is all about. When I made these kinds of criticisms in my classes, other faculty members, who were on committees with me, would look at me as though I was seriously ill.
Yeah.
They literally would go to the president of the university and complain.
Yeah. Well, you're not
Okay?
seriously ill, maybe moderately so. Not seriously ill.
You
Well,
know
well,
who
so
was seriously, I don't accuse them of being seriously ill, but I accuse them of being seriously ignorant.
yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah, and look what's going to happen now. The Supreme Court has given the green light. 500,000 people are at risk. We're going to see the mass deportations
Those
are
are
now.
great numbers. People
Yeah,
are going to love those numbers. That puts a big dent. And they keep saying there's 20 million illegals in the United States.
yeah.
Okay.
They can't
Okay.
find them. They can't find them.
Yeah, they can't. Well, and then the real numbers are around 11 million people, but among those 11 million people are people who have legitimate asylum complaints.
Yeah,
Okay, or
and
they're
that's
not
a key.
complaints, but they're
Yeah,
they're applications, right?
yeah. They have
And
cases.
look
Yeah,
what the DOJ and ICE is doing, right? They're
someone is.
going to the courtroom,
Mhm.
okay, and when people show up for their hearings, they're arresting them
Right.
and interfering with their right to due process immediately.
See,
Okay.
and already, if there's gonna be a case, right, and it's going to go to the Supreme Court, and already the Supreme Court has said the immigrants have a right to due process. So we're going to see this bottleneck of cases coming back and forth. I mean, Trump is
Yeah, and
relying
then
on the
and then
court.
Trump lies again.
Oh
He,
yeah,
he lies and says, "Okay, we have to give 13 million people. We're gonna have to give 20 million people, right?
yeah,
Trials,
right,
okay?" And that again is a lie.
yeah.
All that they're entitled to is some kind of due process. They do not get the same level of due process that citizens and legal permanent residents get.
So
Okay.
we'll have to follow this. But one thing I want to talk about, you use the term Trump is lying in reference to these undocumented or these deportable people.
Okay, I'll take it back. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, well,
When
one
he
of the
describes
things,
that situation, he is obviously misstating it, and that
yeah,
may be because of his ignorance.
but I bring it up because I've been watching some programs and I heard a couple of instances this morning. I heard Stephen Miller
Oh
talking
man!
about. I mean, and he's a real piece of
Well,
work.
he's the most influential racist in that whole administration,
Right, he's the architect of
and he's
these.
only number two.
Yeah, yeah, but listen to what he was saying today. A commentator was talking about undocumented people, and Stephen Miller said, "Undocumented. I don't know what you mean by undocumented. You mean illegal? Because undocumented means they might not have a driver's license or they might not have a birth certificate." He was really wanting to press on the debate that if you say undocumented, and we know this, if you say undocumented, you have a sensitivity, you have a wokeness that is really
That's right.
anti-American,
That's right.
and he was pressing on, the correct term is illegal. They're here illegally, they're illegal, and then of course the commentator then didn't know the next step, which is to say no people are illegal. It's an illegal action, but that doesn't make them people as illegal. They're undocumented people. You're describing the people. Then we get into this whole
Well, there's
semantic.
also, if people apply for asylum, okay,
Yeah,
they're not illegal.
right.
They have entered legally, right? Once they claim asylum, even if the initial entry is seen as illegal because it wasn't at uh, a guarded entry point, right?
Yeah.
They I've seen people on video, right, entering illegally through a dugout area underneath one of the walls or fences. Okay,
Mhm.
and there are guess what, ICE agents and border patrol, right, waiting for them.
Yeah.
Okay, usually they're border patrol,
Yeah.
and as soon as they see the border patrol, they say, I want to claim asylum, I want to apply for asylum. Obviously they're being educated somewhere about how to behave under these circumstances, and the people that I saw saying those things appeared to be Asians.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
probably Chinese,
Well,
and so there they were.
I'm just saying we're going to see a lot more of these deportations ramping up. We're going to see a lot more court cases, and it seems like in the as the narrative goes out, you're going to hear a lot more of the challenge. Did you see undocumented? They are illegal. Or no, they're not illegal. We're going to see that come back. Here's another thing that what you said something and it reminded me of this. You said Trump was lying. You then changed your words. I was listening to a journalist who said, in answer to a question, he said, Trump was not factual. He said that was as neutral as a journalist he could describe what Trump was saying. And it struck me because as a journalist, I guess because I'm in the opinion realm, I have never seen it as my duty as even a straight journalist was to be as neutral as possible. So he says Trump was not factual, and
I
to
think that's
me,
good.
yeah,
I've used that myself many times.
in my mind, I would say Trump's a liar. Trump is lying, and I think that's where lying is a judgment. I guess right. That's not neutral.
Yeah, I use the term lie to describe a situation, okay, where the person, more likely than not, when there's a high probability that they knew what the truth was and they misstated fact anyway. Okay, that's where I draw the line. Okay, and so there have been people that I've been involved with in conflicts in the academic environment. Okay, and they believed seriously in something that was really untrue. Their perspective on a given issue, their perspective on a colleague, right, I believed was substantially wrong, and I didn't understand their motivation, but I knew that they were substantially wrong factually. I never called them a liar because I felt they really believed in
Mm.
their whatever what it was that was motivating them about the wrong that they felt was being committed by fellow colleagues.
All right, that I can see where you could say that's not a lie, but sometimes people will use bald-faced lies to
Yes, they will.
to
Absolutely.
like
And
they
Stephen
use
Miller,
those numbers. But
Stephen Miller is such a person.
yeah,
There's
and
no question.
that's why when I see him on television, like this morning, he was talking to Pamela Brown, who actually is pretty sharp. I mean, she's Phyllis George's daughter, so like mom, very beautiful, but not dumb, very sharp. She stood her ground. She asked some tough questions, but there was Stephen Miller bullying her on the idea of, hey, you use the term undocumented. What do you mean? Essentially saying that sounds too woke for our conversation.
Did he use the word woke?
No, he didn't use the word woke. I
Okay.
used the word woke to
Okay.
describe because because other MAGA types and Trump himself would say, we're anti woke. We're going after the woke. I mean, he didn't use woke, but he did say in that interview that all the Democrats should come out and just call themselves communists because that's what they really
Yeah,
are.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're communists.
last time he said Marxist. So I don't know if calling them communists is like a promotion,
I
right?
think
Yeah.
I think it's a more general, more general enemy. The enemy is communism, Marxism, because you could have some Marxists who are, just American
I think
intellectuals.
absolutely the other way around. I think communist is very specific.
Uh,
It's
well,
a
well,
communist.
I agree. I
Communists
agree.
believe that there is no state.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with you. I agree. I meant general in the sense that uh, Marxist is it's more general than Marxist, which is a very specific, almost intellectual endeavor, talking about Marxism and talking about theory. It's more theory. Communism is is both specific and
it's a
general.
belief. It's a belief that you can do without the state. That you can reach such a high level of political and social consciousness that a state is no longer needed. Right.
All right, now tell me about Maoism, because a lot of people look at they look at what Trump is doing, and they see Maoist tendencies, going after the cultural institutions, going after education, and really uh, inculcating people's minds with a kind of dogma, kind of propaganda.
Uh,
Is the Maoist parallel? Is that real to you, or is that not?
I think it's partially parallel, yes, but the reality is that that exact behavior that you described
Mm,
is done by everybody who's authoritarian. I mean, all of the dictatorships
yeah,
use the same methodology. Okay, you change the culture by adopting the term woke, for example. Okay, by racists particularly using woke in a racist fashion, right? They have not only expropriated a concept, right? They're misusing it and redefining it in a manner that's consistent with their racist ideology. Okay, that's exactly what they're doing. And so the criticism right now that some people have of the Democratic Party is that they're too woke. What that criticism is based on is a lot of it is language. A lot
yeah,
of it is language and also subject matter. So those two things. The subject matter is what upsets people on the right and maybe even people in the center. Okay, for example, Newsom is getting criticized now as turning right towards the center on the issue of transgender athletes, participating in sports, and especially school sports,
yeah,
right? And of course he's world known for being in favor of gay marriage, and that it started here and was legalized first here in San Francisco
yeah,
with his infamous words, whether you like it or not, which I
yeah.
thought was not only superfluous, it actually cast a negative pall.
Yeah, and also that's a phrase that Donald Trump has used also a number of times, saying essentially, "I'm going to force this down your throat too," but not on another matter, not in terms of gay
Yeah,
marriage per
not
se.
not in terms of gay
Yeah.
marriage.
So you mentioned trans athletes. Trump this week said he was going to cut funding for to the state if they
Yeah,
didn't change the rules on the high school track and field championships. There was a trans athlete who qualified for a number of the jump, events: long jump, high jump, broad jump. I think they what the CIF, the High School Athletic Association in California did. They changed the rules so that if a trans athlete took a spot, it would bump up the next cisgendered person. So essentially, my understanding from the reports is that the trans athlete could never win outright, but would always tie with a cisgender. It's kind of a compromise, but so if a trans athlete came in first, they would allow it would essentially be a tie with the next cisgendered athlete. And it would be a tie for first. In other words, the trans athlete would never be alone, which I think is unfair to the trans athlete, especially if the trans athlete is a trans female and is a female in any other way, except by the broadest definition of how you want to biological this or that. But if If a trans athlete is a female, she's a female. She should compete with females. And I think it's unfair to the trans athlete, and I think it is a form of unmeritocratic unmeritocratic affirmative action for cisgendered athletes, which any self-respecting Trumpian should reject. It should all be meritorious. It should all be if a cisgendered athlete finishes second but gets bumped up into first to tie the winning trans athlete, that's affirmative action. That's appalling affirmative
Yeah,
action.
it is. It is
And
affirmative action.
yeah, and I so
Well,
I
what would you rather happen? Would you just rather happen that
they all
uh,
compete. They all
okay,
compete, and if the trans athlete wins, she wins, and then the cisgendered girl, in this case, it's a trans girl who is competing. If she wins outright, no tie, and the next cisgendered athlete finishes a notch below.
see,
And
see,
that's fair.
my problem is, I think Newsom has at least got the right positioning in terms of his present outlook, and that is it's about fairness. He didn't say that he likes what CIF has done, okay,
No.
but he said that the issue is about fairness, which is a very safe thing to say, okay. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Hard to fight.
the question is, how do you make it fair? Because we have to consider why people who are against any transgender person participating in any sport at any time,
Mm,
okay, and which is kind of funny to me because that would mean that uh, a person who was biologically female and that transgendered, okay, who succeeded in playing, let's say, basketball
mm,
at an NBA qualifying level, right, would not be allowed to play.
yeah.
And so that is kind of the reverse of what the general public is concerned about, correct?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you would have somebody with masculine abilities competing in female athletic sports or
Well,
competition.
I mean, what gets me is that you look at the WNBA. I'm a big fan of the WNBA,
Absolutely.
and there are some very masculine female basketball players,
You
and
know,
you
not to
know,
mention tall,
and they're tall, yeah, and
huge.
I like the WNBA because for the most part, people are just they seem normal, right? Even the 6'1" guys in the NBA look short, right? In the WNBA, if you're 6'1", you're kind of
You,
tall,
so you're
you
talking
know.
about Brunson. Brunson's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
that, 6'1",
yeah.
right?
Brunson 6'1". Stephen Curry, I think, is 6'3". If
Yeah, he's a couple inches taller. Yeah,
yeah, and and Curry looks small,
yeah,
but in the WNBA, if you're 6'1", you're one of the giants, because they rarely have women who are. I mean, the centers are like 6'5", and maybe. I mean, I guess Brittany Griner is a little taller than that,
yeah,
but even now, even Caitlin Clark is six. I think she's 6 feet.
yeah. She's
So
not that tall. Yeah,
yeah, she's not that tall. But my point is, there are, however, female athletes who have very alpha type of physiques. They play well, and I think and you have had instances where people have accused those women of being trans, right, or
well,
misidentified.
you remember the tennis competitions in the '70s, and
Yeah,
I mean, Martina might be gay, but they were saying she might be a tranny or she's taken
right.
hormones and stuff like that.
And there was an Olympic boxer the last
Oh yeah,
Olympics.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. This is a thing though, and the track meet is going to happen on Saturday in Fresno in Clovis, and I guess there's going to be protests there. I just think that this is a red herring kind of issue.
It is.
A way
It
to
is, but
talk
it's
about.
important to people on the right. It's extremely important to people on the right for two reasons, right?
Yeah.
One, their sense of fairness, okay, and the other one, their ability to strike back at woke. And that's a whole
Yeah.
nother issue. We should have in the future a conversation about the abuse of the term woke. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I just don't like the fact that by them talking about this, they think they're talking about trans, but they're talking around it. They're talking under it and over it,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
anyway, but directly, and and it just muddies the argument and gives
Well,
them a leg up on something like, oh yeah, who's against fairness? Well,
look at
fairness.
how they've abused DEI.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
You know,
DEI's.
I mean, DEI is actually a milder form of affirmative action.
Yeah, very
Okay,
mild. Not even
very
affirmative.
very mild.
It's
Okay,
very,
so and that was why it was created,
yeah,
was to move away from terminology which people had already condemned, that the right had already condemned. And so, to an extent, I feel that the left and the center compromised the same way, right, that the center and the left has compromised in the past, okay, with the increasingly extreme positions taken by the right. Once you do that, okay, once you comply, all right, by giving up some of your well rationalized political and social positions, especially when you are arguing from a position of principle, you have lost. And the left, not just the Democratic Party, but the left and the center left particularly has lost consistently ever since the Reagan administration.
yeah. I don't disagree with you. I think you're right. I mean, because you allowed um, the other side, the
To
right,
define you.
to define it, and
Yeah,
you defined the argument, and the argument is everywhere but right there clashing with the very facts you need to be talking about.
that's
They
right.
talk about all these other things, the
Instead, you
clash.
start defending, yeah, instead, you start defending your position on each one of these issues instead of looking at the core issues, right, that motivate the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and this idea of fairness, it's like, what, we're not against fairness if you're on the left. If you're a moderate, you're not for fairness. It's like, it's a ridiculous argument, but it's effective. And then they put out these little girls who shouldn't be playing sports if they're not good enough to handle all comers. They're not good enough. I mean, that's the way sports is. I mean, it's not rec league. I mean, when you talk about very competitive Division 1, 2, college, or 5A, 4A, high school, you're not talking about rec league, everyone plays kind of thing. So you're going to complain if your daughter doesn't play because you know she,
have you
yeah.
ever been? Have you ever been to friggin'? It's not as bad at track and field, but have
Oh
you ever
yeah.
been to baseball game or softball
Oh
game?
yeah. Oh yeah. Of course,
The-
I've been a coach, and so
oh, oh, that's right, you coached, and it's
yes,
terrible. I
I
mean,
I,
some of the parents are
yeah.
vicious. You
I
know,
coach.
they're
I coach soccer. I coach soccer traveling team and also rec teams, and the rec teams are the worst. You get
oh man.
yeah, yeah, and basketball. I coach. I just think that track is actually good because you don't know who's out there. Because there's like individual teams, but I mean there's teams, but they're made up of these individuals and they race and so you don't really know, but and especially in the jump, right? Because they're not all jumping at once, and then you don't know who's going to win except at the end.
Right.
So I don't know. This weekend should be interesting. New York Times did a big piece on it out of Clovis, which is just outside of Fresno. So we'll see what happens. But I thought this whole thing had died down, but it's not. It's still with us. It's
Well, no, the
still,
right wants to keep it. They
yeah,
they they need all of these forms. You said it earlier. It's a distraction.
yeah. They
This
need
is
all
this
their.
is really not an important thing. I mean, the war in Ukraine, that's important.
Oh, but no one wants to talk about that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
actually,
Okay. The
Trump needs.
slaughter of Gazans, of Palestinians in Gaza, that's important. Okay.
Yeah, but
They're not paying attention to that though.
Trump doesn't look very good on either score. So let's. The next one is the next topic, the Harvard commencement, and
Oh yeah.
there,
Nah. President.
you're a university professor. I was just happy to see. Now, Alan Garber is a classmate of mine. He's a really smart guy. He's a doctor, an economics, PhD, as well as a doctor. So you figure that instead of being Harvard president, he could like figure out how to solve the healthcare crisis or something, and that would be better. But now he's got his hands full with Harvard. I was happy to see him get a standing ovation because I
Oh
think
yeah.
he's done a good job. Number one, just making sure that there's peace on campus, and number two, standing up to Trump, standing up to higher, the threat to higher ed and the threat to free speech, which if Harvard loses, it's going to affect every university in the country.
Yeah. Private or public. I mean, the media has been making a distinction between private and public, and I don't. I can understand that private institutions may have a greater degree of sovereignty, as it were, right,
Yeah,
than
yeah,
public institutions, and certainly public institutions are subject much more to political attack because they're dependent on government funding.
yeah,
And so, either way, right? What people need to understand is you have to look at the reasons for the attack, and people are too hung up on the money. They're saying, okay, it's the government money, and Harvard is too woke. They're too
yeah,
liberal, right? But they're not looking at what's getting cut. They're not. They're looking also again at a subterfuge, right, of foreignness, using foreignness. But what is it really all about? It's also about what a lot of white America thinks are unqualified people,
yeah.
okay, going to
Well,
Harvard from
yeah.
foreign
Well,
countries. Okay,
yeah.
so instantly, if the people are from foreign countries, how well are they qualified, and why are they able to attend Harvard? Well, the reason is it's
Yeah.
meritorious, especially in the instance of foreign students. It's highly
Right.
meritorious. Okay, one of the arguments that Trump made was their governments aren't even helping them. They're not paying their way and paying their tuition
Yeah.
at Harvard. Well, wouldn't that
Right.
be
Well,
worse? Wouldn't the fact that their governments would be paying for their students to do, then they'd be even more
right.
suspect. So if they're getting private funding, right, that should be a greater reason to believe that they're here for their major purpose, which is to get a damn
Yeah.
good
And the thing
education.
is, I think the international students serve as a proxy for all people of color, right?
I
It's
absolutely agree
it's
with
a
you.
xenophobic thing, and it's a trickle down
Absolutely.
from going after, and especially now the Chinese thing has come up. Oh, Chinese are looking to recruit these people, and it's been a standard knee jerk thing to go after Chinese research, academics, scientists, at the university level to go after them, Wen Ho Lee, that situation, and now it's impacting students, impacting the international students, and it's not like the international students are. I don't know. I don't know of any cases, but maybe the Trump administration knows of cases where these students are actually spies.
There's no
Yeah,
question that that's a possibility. There's no
yeah.
question that's a
But
possibility. Okay. But see, the likelihood is that we're more vulnerable to that than, let's
yeah,
say, Russia. We're more vulnerable to
yeah,
that than China, and the reason we're more vulnerable is because more
yeah,
people want to
yeah.
come here.
Well,
Okay,
well,
so
it's just BS that all right. We haven't even mentioned the big reason why Trump is going after Harvard, and that is because it's an anti-Semitism thing. He's fighting anti. He's fighting
again,
anti-Semitism.
again,
Right.
a cloak.
Right.
This is a
This
cloak.
is the. I guess don't they call this the MacGuffin? Is this the MacGuffin? I don't know. And the idea that, anti-Semitism is the reason why you got to go stop these people. Oh, by the way, these people are all foreign students. Oh, by the way, we hate foreigners. Oh, by the way, here's xenophobia. Oh, we've seen this before with Chinese and foreign professors and researchers and yeah,
That's
and it's
still on
fun,
a
right?
lot of the program, a lot of the college programs, including the CSU system and the UC system here in California, all up and down the coast,
Right.
have
So
been
we
shut
have
down.
to. I think we have to defend. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
before
Before Trump.
Trump. They were shut down. There was many of them were shut down during the Biden
So it's
administration.
it's just a racist thing on the part of Trump. We have to stand up to
Absolutely.
it, and uh, I just think a lot of people are falling for the. Well, we're fighting anti-Semitism. Oh, that's it's bad, or oh,
Oh man, it's bad enough that you know where's the line? Where is that line of demarcation between being critical of Israeli foreign and domestic policy, right? Okay, and then
right.
anti-Semitism.
Well,
Okay, right. Even though there were two people who were attacked and killed, right, in
mhm.
Washington D.C. Okay, and they say this is an anti-Semitic act. Okay, well, how much of it, however horrendous this behavior was, okay, especially on two people, okay, who were a loving
That's
couple, right, who were young and building their careers. I mean, that to me that added to the
no. I
tragedy
agree.
of the
I agree.
situation. Okay, but much of his motivation, okay, may be political, not merely that it's
Mhm.
anti-Jewish, right, and that it's racist in that sense, right, but but that it also is about Israeli treatment of Palestinians. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's real.
yeah. I
That's very
I just
real.
think Trump's using that as the pretext to hammer it at Harvard. But if people look at it, you see how he's picking on them. It's a First Amendment issue. It's also a
That's
public-private
right.
issue, and he shouldn't get away with it. And people should stand up, because if we don't stand up and back Harvard against Trump, Trump will. This is part of the authoritarian thing. Going after the university.
If I'm wondering how many people are leaving Columbia, how many professors are leaving Columbia because they caved.
I've heard of a few.
Okay,
Yeah, I've heard of it.
yeah, but I don't know if that's going to increase or not. But I can safely say that if I were working at Columbia, I would
Yeah,
want to.
yeah,
Okay,
and I am so happy that 50 years ago I did not choose Columbia over Harvard. I can say that. Yeah.
okay.
I, I,
Oh no, let's
you
not
know,
get in trouble, man. But if I'm making that kind of
I,
that there's a lot of people. I think we'd be better off if we were comparing like Yale and Harvard. One
Columbia
of
is a
the
good
other Ivy
school,
League
but
schools.
Columbia,
Yeah,
they have it.
it's a
They
great
have their
school.
problems now. One of the things about yesterday's commencement, they had a shot from behind Garber or over Garber's shoulder, looking out at Harvard Yard. How many people do you think fit
Right.
in that? They call it the Tercentenary Theater at Harvard Yard, with the
I have
uh,
no idea.
32,000 is what. Yeah,
Wow, it
it,
looked like
I
that.
mean,
It
it's at
really looked
32,
like that.
according to the internet sources, 32,000. Now that's the entire university. That's the college,
Right.
the graduate schools, the alums, um, 32,000. Now,
Yeah.
I went there on the day before they have class day, which is just for the class, because we're babies. We want our own day. The undergraduates who are there from freshman to senior year, they're graduating the class of that year, right? The class day. I would say if there's like 2,000 people in the class, there might be maybe seven, maybe 10,000, so a third. I just recall that seeing that shot from behind Garber's or over Garber's shoulder. it reminded me of what I saw from the podium when I gave my speech, and it just brought me back to 1977, and that one joke I gave, where I gave the joke, the punch, I gave the setup and the punchline, and I got this roaring laugh back. Oh my God. I never, it was like the, the oral, feeling of it is the biggest laugh I ever had in my life. It's the only, I think it's really the only laugh I had in that speech. It just hit me. And it was like, oh my, it was like this wave. And, I've been searching
Yeah.
for that ever since. I mean, it was such a feeling. But it also reminded me of that. That was probably the one good thing that happened to me when I was at school there, because everyone loves to talk about Harvard, but they don't love to talk about the things that happened when they were at Harvard, and uh, I think that for a long time I had to make peace with some feelings I had about the place, and I really identified with the international students, because there were more
Yeah.
international students there at the time than there were, regular folks like me. The homegrown Asian American types, working class. There are more Asians who
Yeah.
came from, they're Prince of Brunei, or they're foreign princes and royalty. They were the international students. They paid full freight, and sometimes they would be not shunned, but they would be look askance because they weren't white, right? And sometimes they'd pal around with me because I looked like one of them. And so we had some international bonds, to some degree. And so when I see this treatment of international students by Trump, it bothers me, because you need these international students, right? They're going to be something, right? They're going to do something. It's if nothing else, it's good PR, right, for the future.
Some people rise to leadership positions in their entire country, the top
Yeah.
leadership positions in their
Oh,
country, and yeah, and some stay here, some develop a binational or trinational status, right? And they start up companies that are successful in a given area, in a given field, and then they travel
yeah,
back and forth, between the United States and these other places where they've established a footprint, and it just makes for great relationships. Pablo
yeah,
Torre talks about the fact that his right across, that his roommate was from Kathmandu, or
yeah,
something like, pretty exotic. And by
yeah.
exotic, I mean rare, right? In terms of people there. And there was a person from an African country right across the hall,
Oh
that
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah.
So,
You
uh,
know who was not as friendly? The Philip. Well, no, she was friendly. She was friendly. I didn't know her, but she was a Filipino banker's daughter, and the
did she have a Chinese
I
combination
think
last
no, no,
name?
no. Actually, she had a Spanish last name, and then there was one guy
Okay.
from Africa who I hung out with, and he had a pith helmet. He always wore a pith helmet,
Oh,
and
that's cool. Which one, the North
no, no,
India
no, no.
one or
This is
the
African
African one?
African one, and
Right,
I
right,
remember
right.
one time I went to his place, and I'd never seen anyone put, they have they put like drapes or like mosquito netting on the roof or on the ceilings, so it gives like sort of like a cloud like billowy effect. It was it was a way of
Uh-huh.
really jazzing up his living quarters, whereas me and my
Sure.
roommates had little Indian madras rugs separating the room, and very 1968, Grateful Dead. Type of
Sure.
thing.
Sure. Yeah. Did you have
No, we
sitar
didn't have
music as
no, we didn't have sitar
as
mute, but I had another roommate was a meditator, but he was from Belmont, California. He wasn't from far out. Anyway, yeah, the whole thing about international students. They should be international students are prized should be prized. They shouldn't be, dealt with as pawns. And so, anyway, I don't know what Harvard is going to do. It's time to support Harvard if you haven't gotten into the fight. I mean, thank goodness they're fighting, but I guess we're going to see a case, right? There's going to be a case filed about monies taken away, about uh, what Trump can do, what he can't do, but he's just doing it until someone says no, right? That's really what it will.
Yeah, that's right. And it's going to go up to the U.S. It's going to go up
Yeah,
to SCOTUS, and SCOTUS will probably decide in his
and this
favor.
is well, John Roberts is court, and John Roberts is a Harvard guy, and there's a number of Harvard people there, including Ketanji Brown Jackson and Elena Kagan. So I don't know. I would hope that people would just throw out the Harvard case as baloney on the part of what Trump is up to, and let our you know our our oldest university do its thing. So another one of those things we're gonna have to sit and watch.
Before we go
Taco.
to Taco,
Yes.
before we go to Taco, I'd like to raise one thing,
Sure.
and that is what Bondi has just announced in terms of the
What she
judicial review
announced
process. They're getting rid of the judicial review process. Judicial
as
vetting
of
is
when?
over.
Just now?
Uh, Let me see. As of
Oh,
yesterday,
it's
Bondi eliminates the ABA's role in vetting Trump judicial picks. So the American Bar Association
well.
is
It's
no good
funny. It's
at
funny
doing
that
vetting.
Trump is he's gone he's gone sour on Leonard Leo and the conservative group that you know that backed all his appointments. So I know there must have been a falling out. And so if Leonard Leo had a falling out, then
That's probably
yeah,
the immediate source, right? That's the immediate
yeah,
motivation
and
is
then
Leonard Leo. Uh, he's a
yeah,
classic conservative, right? And he has been a Trump
mm,
supporter, but there's a line. The classic conservatives will not violate the Constitution.
yeah,
It's kind of easy. Okay. It's kind of easy. And so he made a statement that clearly showed where the line was and where he wasn't willing to go. And
yeah,
now he's an enemy. And so Trump is now blaming even the
right,
Federalist Society for giving him a
right,
bum list, right? And so the Federalist Society is associated with the ABA vetting process. And let me read the exact words. The Office of Legal Policy, which prepares judicial nominees, will no longer direct nominees to provide, this is a quote, direct nominees to provide waivers allowing the ABA access to non-public information, including bar records,
mm,
unquote, according to a Thursday letter from Attorney General Pam Bondi, the association's president, William Bay. Well, what does that mean? That means that no matter how badly you did on passing the bar
well, it means
and other records, how
yeah,
about complaints against you as either a practicing attorney or a low-level judge, right? Or do you have any experience as a judge? Okay, at all? Do you have any administrative
yeah,
experiences as an
but
attorney
it just
at
means that
all?
they don't
Right?
want anyone who is going to be traditional. They want someone controllable, malleable, who will do the loyalist thing to Trump. Like,
Who may be
yeah, well,
completely unqualified? Who may
well,
be unqualified
but
by a
Pam
basic
Bondi
standard?
is that way. I mean, that's why she wrote the.
What? That she's unqualified? She's she's
Well,
she's
that's why.
barely
But she wrote the
qualified.
letter because she's qualified in the number one way that Donald Trump sees people as qualified, and that is you're loyal to me no matter what. You'll do what I want. You probably
Well,
yeah
she's proven
y-
that as a certainty. She's proven that she has made
yeah
statements that should be considered completely inappropriate, not
yeah
just unprofessional, but completely inappropriate for somebody who's supposed to be the attorney general and the
Yeah,
leader of the
well, this is the
DOJ,
thing. You're not
right?
going to see the traditional types anymore. You're going to see only one type, and that's the Trump type. And that is why they're not interested in recommendations from the ABA, recommendations. The Federalist Society used to be their standard, right? All the ones who are there now were Federalist Society picks, and now they're out.
Well, here's the problem that Trump is having. I made this statement uh, when he was first elected, right after he was first elected, and he was took office
Mhm.
in 2017 on the former Twitter. It was Twitter still at the time. I said, look, everybody keeps talking about how successful the Federalist Society has been at making recommendations and getting them appointed by Republicans, and that Trump is doing this rapidly now. And I said, look, just because they're Trump appointees that have been promoted by the Federalist Society doesn't mean they're going to make decisions in every instance in favor of Mr. Trump. In point of fact, many very conservative judges are going to make their decisions based
Right.
on the law. They're going to make their decisions based on precedent. So it really is not just an open carriage that will be the means for Trump winning court decisions. That's not
Well,
the way it's going to happen. And that's exactly
yeah,
what has happened now. He's running into conservative judges who have been suggested and promoted by conservative sources. They've been vetted by conservative organizations like the Federal Society, and they're making constitutional
that's not
decisions.
Trumpy enough.
Wow.
That's not Trumpy enough. Get them out. Get them out of here. Keep them down below the district level. They ought to be hearing traffic tickets.
Yeah.
They're not the kind of judges we want. We want judges who see one thing and one thing only. That's Trump, 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 Trump law, Trump law, Trump law.
Yeah,
That's all we
that's
want.
right.
I
That's
mean,
right.
that's the thing. You're right. Get that Federalist baloney out of here. All right. Well, okay.
Okay,
So here's the
taco,
thing. You're starting to hear people say the taco presidency, taco. What
man.
does taco mean? Taco is Trump always chickens out. And he does it.
Yeah,
That is his way, and it has to do with tariffs. He's like, here, I got this big stick. I got this big tariff stick. And just when he's about to like hammer down, he always chickens out. We'll give you another 2 weeks. It's just like he does with Ukraine, just like he does with, you know. Hey, you got a chicken down there?
taco,
Taco.
taco, taco,
So
taco,
what do you think
man.
about?
I want to be a taco man.
Yeah,
That's gonna stick, man.
he's
That
gonna
thing
be
is
the
gonna
taco.
stick. Did you see the way
He
he
doesn't like it.
reacted?
It
He
doesn't like
freaked
it.
out.
But
He freaked out.
yeah.
It made him stammer.
Well, I'm glad. I mean,
You know?
it was Trump always chickens out. I think that the thing about that is that Donald Trump he knows nothing really about tariffs. He knows nothing about the tariff courts or the the right.
Well, they
Well,
just burned
the
him.
the court, the International Trade Court, said it's bad. He had no right. And this is the thing: everything he does in terms of tariffs is illegal because he does not have the right to. Yeah,
It's
and
congressional. That's
so
right.
when he says he has the right, he doesn't have the right, and so we have
It's Article One.
yeah,
Article One
and
powers
and
in several places, but especially
yeah, but
under
now
Section
here's the
8.
thing that got me, and this was pointed out by MSNBC yesterday, that when the appellate court said, "Oh, we'll let even though the court said the tariffs, Trump doesn't have the power, we're going to allow him to be back on." So they're back
Yeah,
on.
that's right.
But here's what the Trump attorneys had to do, according to MSNBC. They had
Yeah.
to agree that if the Trump tariffs were found unconstitutional, the Trump government would refund any or all tariffs paid by corporations. and
Woohoo!
and of course the key thing is they rarely will pay anything
Woohoo!
because the tariffs are going to be paid not by the companies, not by the countries, but by the
That's right. They're
consumer.
paid by us. They're paid by
And
us.
they didn't put down.
They're paid by
Yeah.
the consumers who buy
Yeah,
stuff
and
at the store.
they're not saying we're going to refund. That's why but maybe this is a way to get companies to say, okay, let's pay it, and if it's unconstitutional, we'll get a windfall.
And we collect.
Yeah,
We collect from whom? We
yeah,
collect from the government. We
yeah,
collect from the government. Okay. So this ends up costing us more money. Now, that means that the consumers who've already paid the tariff, right, in the form of higher prices, right, they're losers. Okay. And now we're going to be losers again because whatever taxes we pay are going to get used to
yeah.
reimburse the corporations. Whoa. What? How
Uh,
does that work?
it,
That is so
I'm, t-
good. That's what you voted
I'm
for,
telling you, this
idiots.
is the every and MSNBC was looking at it like this will be the most humiliating day for Trump when he has to pay out the refunds. But who knows? It's gonna.
No, he doesn't know
Yeah,
how to be
he does.
humiliated, man. You saw what his what humiliation looks like when they when they
Yeah,
explained taco to him. That's what humiliation looks like. It like it lasts about
taco.
15
Everyone
seconds,
knows I
right?
love burgers.
Yeah,
Everyone knows I love burgers. I got a
yeah,
burger body. I don't have a taco body.
yeah. But you can get them
I don't
both.
have a
You can get
taco
them
body.
both
I
and
have a
make your
burger
day.
body.
You
Yeah. So anyway, taco.
okay, so yeah, there it is. Okay, so we're talking about a lose-lose situation, right? So people who voted for him think they won, and now they've lost, and they're going to lose again two more
Yeah.
times.
Well, it's frustrating because
Have you insulated yourself? I insulated
I
myself.
insulated myself by buying
That's,
tariff-free Glad wrap.
yeah, there you go. There you go. You just look for you look for the
Tariff-free.
tariff-free
Oh,
stuff, man.
it's sad. It's sad. So
It- it's labeled, Temu Temu
yeah,
labels the stuff local source. And then when you go to that, they say tariff free, man.
I am.
you
Yeah,
know
tariff-free. All right. So so much for the Trump tariffs. So Dan, I'm going to do my show on Monday. Uh, yeah,
Yep,
and
see you
we'll
there.
talk more offline. But I don't know.
Is cat
Yeah,
coming?
I
Is
don't
cat
know what
coming
it's
up
going to be.
or
It's going to be a. I'll talk to you. It should be fun. It should be fun. I talk about the Pope. I talk about my mom, and I'm going to talk. But because I was doing some things around Mother's Day, I'm going to talk about my dad because Father's Day is coming up, and some other things. And it should be. And then I'll talk about Trump. I'll talk about some of the things we talked about here today. So that's on Monday, June 2nd, 1062 Valencia Street in San Francisco, and here.
what time does the set end so we know which
It's
restaurants we can?
I don't know when. I don't know when. Well, I'll talk to you about. I don't know
Ah,
when
shit.
it's going to be. I just know if I'm going to be first or second, but I'll probably be up around 7:30 or so. But I'll talk to you.
Right.
But it's
No, that's right.
1062 Valencia, SF March, June 2nd. I call it Trump's, Popes, and Ditties. There's your ticket information. And it's sliding scale. So if all you have is an old scale, just give it to the Marsh. And here's a scale, bathroom scale. They'll take anything. And, but they're good. They're a good outfit. I appreciate their allowing me to sort of work things out. And so
I like that. I've always liked
yeah,
the
it's a
seating
nice
arrangement
setup
there.
there. Nice setup.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of being in
Oh
church, though.
well,
That's the only difference.
I
That's the
have a
thing.
couple of church scenes. You'll like it. Come up for Holy Communion when I say come on up, and and I'll tell my Holy Communion story. So Dan,
Yeah.
thank you very much for being
Yes, sir. Thanks for having
and
me. Thanks for having me. It was a great
yeah, and
discussion once
I'll talk
again.
to you offline. I don't know. It's I try. We're the first 100 days was a nice marker, but it's relentless, relentless.
Well, yeah, yeah. It's going to get weaker. That's the only thing you can think about. It's going to get weaker because there's an inside quibble going on. Oh, that's more than a quibble. Let's see what the Senate does
Yeah.
now that the big ugly has passed the House.
Yeah. And then also, Musk's passing, that's bigger than.
Oh, he's dead.
No. His
Oh,
passing
okay.
yeah,
Oh,
he hasn't died.
that was just willful verbiage, I
Yeah,
think. Be
passing
careful. Be careful.
passing from government. It doesn't
Right.
mean like he's passing. He's
Yeah, right.
or passing as a woman. Yeah, or anything. No, it just means he's going on.
Yeah.
Let's
He
hope.
didn't do a great job of passing as a lumberjack, I'll tell you.
Let's see if he makes it to Mars. I'd like to see him make it.
I like the shirt. I
Yeah.
think it's too bad because I'm never going to wear that. But I like Occupy Mars. I think it's kind of a cute thing.
All right,
Is that kind of woke though?
a little woke, I think.
It's kind of woke, man.
Yeah. All right, on that
Occupy,
score,
Occupy.
on
Yeah.
that score, Dan,
Thank you.
take care.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Have a great weekend.
We'll
Be
talk to you
careful.
soon.
Be careful.
Be careful, and you too, Dan. There he goes, Daniel Phil Gonzalez, my friend, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Asian American Studies, Professor Emeritus. Always, I hadn't really thought about, that if there are refunds from the tariffs paid by corporations, they'll take it out of taxes, and we'll pay. We'll pay. The consumer. No one's thinking about the consumers. All right. Once again, Monday Night Marsh, 1062 Valencia Street, June 2nd. I'll be there. Got a little 20-minute set. I do. Should be fun. Tickets, ovationtix.com. Also go to themarsh.org. There, you see it on the screen there. Reasonably priced, and it's a nice setup. Nice theater. Looking forward to being there. All right. So now, and also don't forget my friend Ishmael Reed. His show, Life Among the Aryans at the Black Rep Group in Oakland. It closes on June 1st. Go to eventbrite.com. Life Among the Aryans, a satire that predicts the insurrection, the January 6th insurrection. It did. He predicted it. Yeah. He did. So, anyway, all right. So we like to close the show with a little loving kindness, even to the people you hate. Even the people you hate, you got to send them a little loving kindness because it helps. It does. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal.